So we
Yeah.
charge $700 lifetime. And because I had built a lot of goodwill in that Facebook group, because people were using our free mapping tool a lot, um, the $700 was a really good bargain for a lot of people. We ended up generating just over $200,000 in revenue in about 48 hours when we first launched the lifetime deal. And we ended up kind of closing seven figures in non-recurring revenue in those first 12 months, using that kind of Facebook group methodology. And that's kind of how we kind of got
Yeah.
things kicked off.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Beauty with That podcast. I'm your host, Bin Government, where we have Mikkel Dia here with us. Mikkel here is the founder and CEO of a company called Funnelytics. Hey Mikkel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mikkel, let's sort of jump into your product, right? So let's understand what Funnelytics does and like why customers are willing to pay even.
Yeah, absolutely. So Funnelytics is fundamentally a marketing analytics platform. What we do is we help businesses visualize their entire customer journey on a digital whiteboard, and then they can overlay all of the data on top of that journey, on top of that whiteboard, so that they can see exactly how people convert, what are the conversion rates, where are the bottlenecks, how are people flowing through all the different touch points that they have to try to convert strangers into customers.
All right, so just talk a bit more here, right? So I can see your product, you've got nice dashboard and I could see some sort of, maps and all of it, right? And stuff flowing through it, right? So do you also help companies run those campaigns or are you just sort of collecting those data and then sort of, showing them like what's working and what's not like?
Yep. So we don't help you run campaigns. We basically help you plan out and measure the performance of those campaigns from a visual standpoint. So think of it as Miro, which is like the whiteboarding tool, meets Google Analytics. So the ability to basically look at every single customer touch point, map it on a canvas, and basically connect them all together, and then turn on data to understand how are people flowing through this. It's a perfect way for agencies specifically, but marketing teams in general, to communicate both the strategy and the results of that strategy. However, no, we integrate with all different platforms. We'll pull data from HubSpot, or you install Funnelytics on your website as a tracking script, and basically we'll pull data from other platforms and then visualize it on the canvas.
So talk about your customer base today, right? So how many customers are we talking about who are using your product today?
We have thousands of customers using Funnelytics, and it ranges across different industries, different types of businesses. So many of them are agencies. Like I said, they help businesses do kind of performance marketing as a whole, and basically they come in and do this for their clients. And then we have in-house marketing teams for typically the three core segments are e-learning. So education, course creators, coaches, that kind of stuff. Then you have kind of SaaS, people who try to generate demos and want to get something kind of scheduled in or a free trial. And we have e-commerce as well. So those are kind of the three core segments where in-house marketing teams come in. However, because we have this really cool mapping canvas, we have all sorts of marketers, from newbies to experienced people across all industries, kind of use our mapping tool to visualize their strategy.
So just help us understand like how much does a typical customer or a typical agency pay you to use the software?
Yep. So it ranges. So our mapping tool is $49 per month, and basically allows you to map all of your strategies. So most people who are kind of just on the mapping level are at that price point. However, for our performance plans, which is the ability to overlay data, it'll range anywhere from $200 per month to $2,000 per month. Now, on an agency level, it's usually based on a workspace, and how many clients they have inside of their account. So for them, a typical agency will pay about $1,000 a month.
1,000 a month. That makes a lot of sense. And how much of your revenue does come from agencies? Looks like that's your bigger chunk. That's what I'm understanding.
It's our core customer, our ideal client profile. However, it's actually pretty much split 30% across the board. Bigger midsize in-house teams
Mhm.
versus are agencies versus kind of that mapping segment.
Right.
Those are the kind of three core, and it's pretty much 30% across the board.
Makes sense. But then, like, approximately, right, as a company, what are you doing in terms of revenue? Did you cross that $1 or $2 million mark, or?
Yeah, we're past the. I don't like to overly disclose revenue numbers, but we are past the 7-figure mark. Yes.
So yeah, let's just go back, right? So just want to get a sense of, right, so where you're getting all of these agencies or your marketing team, right? So where are you finding them? Then just talk about your whole GTM strategy, and I want you to sort of start at the top of funnel, right? The way you're discovering what channels have been working for you. I know you are into digital marketing, so I know you have a good plan here, right? So what's that plan? And just let us walk us through that funnel, right? So
Yeah, interestingly enough, it's changed over the years. So we originally started off with the mapping tool being free, and we would advertise the mapping tool, and we would basically use a product-led motion to get people to pay for the analytics tool on the back end. And over the years, we've experimented with a few different models, and the mapping tool has always been kind of the core driver for our growth. People talk about our mapping tool, share our mapping tool, etc. But we also experimented with a sales-led motion on the back end of the mapping tool. And right now, we are very much experimenting with a free trial motion on the front end. So all of the people who are coming in, and most of our traffic right now is organic. We just have a lot of people coming in organically, which is great. And that's a function of a few things. Our product itself being great, but also the use and the kind of word of mouth aspect of things. So most of our traffic comes in organically. That's our core kind of funnel. We bring in people through a product-led approach through the free trial, and really try to dial in that onboarding experience. It's really, really challenging because our product is quite technical and quite complex in terms of what you can do with it. And it's not a single kind of, connect your Google Calendar and here's the outcome.
yeah.
There's a lot of nuances to using our tool. So it requires some back end
So
support.
just
And
I just want to sort of quantify a lot
go
of
ahead.
things that you've just said, right? So I know there are a lot of things in there, right? So let's just stick to the past 12 months, right? So like how many new customers have you sort of acquired over that over the past 12 months? What's an approximate range for that?
Yeah, we acquire approximately 50 or so per week, give or take, in terms of new customers. In terms of free trials, we're acquiring anywhere around 200 or so free trials per week.
And what's that top of funnel, right? So where like I know word of mouth, you mentioned word of mouth, right? But like where else are you sort of driving all of this traffic from, right? Have you been writing any content, or is something
Nope,
working for you, right? I mean, like how do you
purely
generate like
organic.
okay, so how do you generate like what, like 4,000 sort of, that's like 200 into 50, right? So we're talking about almost thousands of, free trials every year, right? So
Correct.
where we getting all of this from, right? So with,
Yeah, every month. Yeah. Yeah, the honestly, it is very much 100% organic in the sense that it's not through our blog, it's mostly direct to funnelytics.io. And when we look at, let's say, our self attribution, when people fill out a form and say, "How did you hear about us?" It very much ranges from YouTube to Instagram influencers to LinkedIn to just it's basically people using our tool, taking screenshots of it, and other people talking about it. So
and you
it's less
haven't put
so
in any effort on those channels to, drive the word of mouth, right? It's
we are
people, your
not.
users sort of, sharing the content and, you know,
Correct. Now, the interesting thing is that wasn't the case in the beginning, right? Obviously, it snowballed into that. We used a lot of paid advertising in the very beginning to promote our free mapping tool, and that free mapping tool started to take a life of its own. And people started talking about the mapping tool. People started talking about the ability to map these customer journeys on a canvas, and that kind of snowballed into all of this organic traffic. People recorded videos and posted and then it just created kind of a lot of organic traffic. Now, that's not to say that that's the best traffic because we get a lot of traffic from South American countries. We get a lot of traffic from all over the world, right? And our ideal customers, the ones who do pay, let's say $1,000 a month as an agency,
Yeah.
they're not coming in, those free trials coming in are not them, right?
Got it.
So we need to continue to optimize and figure out how do we get more of those customers
So where are they
through
coming
both.
from? Which is my naturally next question, right? So where are those actual paying $10,000 ACV deal, these agencies discovering
So
you?
currently they are still coming in from the organic, but it's a small fraction of the bigger pool of people. So for us, in order for us to grow, we've got to now figure out, okay, well, what is our go-to market motion for that particular type of client? Because we've been kind of growing through organic, and think of it as a high level top of funnel. So
Yeah.
now think of, instead of free trials, most people look at free trials as like a step, right? Well, for us, we almost look at free trials as a lead more so than we look at a free trial as an actual email address. So people start a free trial, and only a small fraction of the people who start a free trial currently through our organic traffic is our ICP. And now what we need to do is figure out how do we get more free trials from the right ICP using a proper go-to-market motion.
But still,
And that's something we're
100%
working on.
of your ICP is still coming from those free trials, right? That's what's happening today. You don't have
Exactly.
any.
There's still a small percentage
Mhm.
that allows us to keep
Yeah.
growing, but it's a small percentage.
So talk about the sales cycle, right? What does it involve, right, for you to sort of close that $10,000 ACV deal, right? So do you do any hand holding? I know you must have, like, you must figure that out, like, hey, this is an ICP for me, right? These guys are going to pay big bucks for me, right? So do you do anything after that, or leave them to sort of, to, for that self-serve motion, right? Because your product is also not so easy to use. I mean, you need some hand holding, or at least in the
100%.
beginning. Yeah. So do you do
Yeah.
anything there?
So we have think of it as an SDR process. So they start a free trial. We identify who is the right person. For every trial, we host, or at least we attempt to host, a kickoff call with every one of them to kind of show them the ins and outs of the platform, even though they can kind of go through the platform themselves. And we have a lot of training and onboarding and all that stuff. We incentivize them to schedule a kickoff call. And that kickoff call is really ultimately a combination of both a onboarding or showing them the ins and outs of the platform for their use case, but also a discovery call to understand whether or not they would be a good fit for our agency level plans and our higher level plans. So we kind of just use that as a sales process. So basically, anytime a free trial comes in, we use an SDR to outreach as much as possible, get those kickoff calls scheduled, host those kickoff calls, and then identify the right ones and move them down the path.
That way. So let's just sort of go back, right, to when it all started, right? What's the backstory there, and like how did you get your first 5, 10 customers? Just help us walk us through that
Sure.
process.
Yeah. So I did it very unconventionally to get customers. I built originally Funnelytics for myself as an agency owner, and it was just a tool that I wanted. Now I was extremely naive in terms of the complexity of what this tool required to build and to kind of get to where it is today. It's been a journey and a half, to say the least, in terms of building this. However, I really wanted this tool for myself. So what we did is, at the very beginning, because again, it's called Funnelytics, right? It's funnel analytics. It was always about the analytics and always about the data. However, the way we visualize the data is through this mapping canvas. So at the very beginning, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he shared the idea of how of saying, hey, this mapping canvas is really, really cool. Why not give away this mapping tool for free and then just sell people on the back end on the analytics side while you continue to build this? So that's exactly what we did. We basically went and started advertising the mapping tool. So I used some of my income from my agency to advertise the mapping tool. But what I did is I pushed everyone who signed up to the mapping tool to a Facebook group, and we started building out a Facebook group. And then in order to launch the analytics, I called it Funnelytics Pro at the time. And we did it through a kind of founding members round, and it was a lifetime deal. And basically, in order for me to generate some customers, I knew that from a a churn standpoint, like the analytics wasn't even close to ready. It was barely a prototype, let alone something usable. So instead of charging people $99 a month or 100, whatever, I figured, okay, well, based on what it is, we could probably, it's probably worth about $700 lifetime. Now we charge $500 a month for our product. However, at the time, it was nothing. So we charged $700 lifetime. And because I had built a lot of goodwill in that Facebook group, because people were using our free mapping tool a lot, the $700 was a really good bargain for a lot of people. We ended up generating just over $200,000 in revenue in about 48 hours when we first launched the lifetime deal. And we ended up kind of closing 7 figures in non-recurring revenue in those first 12 months, using that kind of Facebook group methodology. And that's kind of how we kind of got things kicked off.
And have you raised any external funding with that, right? So
I have, yep. I've raised VC funding in the first round was in April 2020. And we kind of have raised, we've raised about $3 million in terms of funding. And it was interesting because a lot of that funding was used specifically to rebuild the platform. Again, I didn't know what I was building, right? It was this is something I want, and I hired a developer. There was no structure. We were planning as we were building, so we were like,
how much did it cost you to sort of build that first version back then?
Man, maybe with the developer that we had, maybe the first prototype, and then the 2 years of investing, I had about 3 engineers on it, full time for about 2 years. So I don't know, do the math of that, and then 1 engineer part-time for about a year. So, and again, we were using kind of the lifetime deal revenue to kind of fund that. But again, we were building as we were going. So in other words, we're like, hey, what would be cool? This feature. So we build the feature, and then it's like, hey, what would be cool? This feature. And we would stack another feature and then realize, oh, wait, these 2 features don't connect, and it was poorly designed and all that stuff. So it ended up being a non-scalable product. So when we raised our first round of funding, we used a lot of that money to rebuild from the ground up.
So Miguel, like what's the vision here right now that you're on that VC path, right? So where do you see your company in like 3-4 years, right? So what are the next big milestones you're aiming for, and like what's the big vision here?
Yeah, good question. So ultimately, we see Funnelytics as a platform that can be used by really any digital marketing team all over the world. So we have a universal language with our canvas. Everybody loves to look at pictures, and everybody knows they need data. So we're continuing to build that vision of just creating that command center for all the digital marketing teams in the world. Our goal is to kind of get to kind of the Series A. We'll probably raise a Series A round at some point, but we're operating profitably. We're growing. So we're not in a rush to kind of raise. However, we'll probably at some stage raise the next round and take it to the next level.